Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished audience. I'd like to introduce myself briefly. My name is Ray Keane. I'm a chess grandmaster. I write every day in the Times on chess, and due to the generous invitation of Professor Crawford, I'm also the president of the Governing Council of the Institute of Brain Chemistry and Human Nutrition. Thank you so much for coming. This event is being filmed and broadcast live by TVapex. We will make a program of it later on and distribute it. And I hope that the momentous conclusions we will reach today will permeate the highest offices in the land and the world and make the impact that it really deserves. I'd now like to hand over to our chairman for the first half of the afternoon, the Chancellor of the Gifted Academy, Distinguished Professor Frederick Troman-Rose.
Distinguished Fellow, ladies and gentlemen, fellow professors, God, so this is academe at play. This is a partnership event today between the Gifted Academy and between, I was going to say the Institute of Brain Chemistry, but that doesn't really describe the many facets of Michael Crawford, which will reveal themselves to you layer by layer this afternoon. The first speaker today is Dr. Manahel Thabit. Dr. Thabit is a remarkable lady. She lives in a country where ladies have to put a tremendous amount into achieving, and she has managed not merely to achieve, but to rise to star quality. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Manahel Thabit.
Ladies and gentlemen, professors, dignitaries, well, let me introduce myself to you. I am Dr. Manahel Thabit. I originally come from Yemen. I live in the United Arab Emirates. I'm an advocate for those who are gifted and talented, because throughout my life I've been identified as a gifted child, and I've suffered because of the special education systems that did not distinguish giftedness from those who are non-gifted. It doesn't mean by any means that they are better in any ways, but it means that they have some potential that has to be addressed. Let me share with you some of the research that I've done in gifted and talent field, especially the Utah study that described the importance of creativity. The creativity is not the airy-fairy things that we know about. The creativity, which is the creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, and all these sophisticated type of thinking process. Now, they've measured many people, and they discovered that creativity in kindergarten students is between 90 to 95%, whereas in primary school it's from 70 to 75%. When it goes to secondary school, it's from 40 to 45%. So there is a serious decline in creativity throughout the educational progression. And it's global. It's not only in a certain area. It's a global crisis, and it's serious. There is a catastrophe going on in terms of the decline of the mental ability of people, especially those who are gifted in talent and have the potential to be different to their peers. They are suffering from an educational system that infuse things to their mental capacity, not allowing them to flourish. I am not going to say a lot because there is a master of this field coming here after me and talking. He's my mentor. He's my teacher. He's Professor Crawford. I'm honored to be his student. And I'm really privileged that he gave me the opportunity to also conduct one of the research that he will discuss with you. And I hope you enjoy his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Freddie, and thank you, Menahel. And thank you all for coming to this seminar to try to explore what is effectively, we both consider, and many of you here consider, a serious global crisis in mental health. Menahel called for the attention to the gifted child, and Cedric, who I'm so glad is here. Cedric was my mentor. And Cedric and June and I have a common history in New Zealand, and we know a child who was the most terrible pain, in whichever end you wish to call it, until it was recognized he was gifted. And once he went to a gifted school, he was transformed into one of the most wonderful people that we know. And so that is why I so extremely sympathize with Menahel and the work that she is trying to do, because she's not only trying to help those who are gifted, she's also trying to say that those who are not gifted need help as well, and they need help with regard to the brain. Here is an animal that achieves a 1 ton body weight after 4 years of growth. 1 ton after 4 years of growth. It gets all the protein it needs from the basic, simplest food resource, namely grass. But it cannot build a brain. What we're concerned about, and in fact this picture tells the whole of my story, is Homo sapiens. And the difference between us and a monkey or a rhinoceros is the brain. And this picture tells you that the priority of human biology is the brain, because the brain case of that child is nearly the same size as the mother's. But look at the hand. And the hand is tiny by comparison with the mother's. What this shows is that the early development in humans is the priority of the brain, not the priority of the body growth. And this is reflected in human milk composition. Human milk has the least amount of protein of any large mammal, but it is rich in the sort of things that are needed for the brain, mostly fats, because the brain is made of fat, and we're going to discuss this in some detail later. Thank you for listening to me.
Now, I was supposed to say something about each member of this panel.
Not necessarily.
But no, they had the temerity to turn up today, so they can introduce themselves. Sir, will you start?
Hi, I'm the Dr. Yiqing Wang. I work in the Institute of Brain Chemistry. My background is from the lipids, from the production. I'm the engineer for the Peter knew me. In China, I work in the National Oil Fats Institute, and I came to here, work with Michael for the lipids, the chemistry, biochemistry. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll stand up. I'm Robert Lister. My friends call me Bob, and you can too. So I'm a member of the trustees board of Michael's, who's the president of the Mother and Child Foundation, and I've known and worked with Michael on and off for about 100 years, or just seems like that sometimes. But I'm going to talk to you later about the relationship between obesity, diet, diabetes, and brain disorders. Thank you.
Our next two speakers, we know
And I'm Simon House. I've only been working with Michael for about a quarter of a century. And the Institute of Brain Chemistry and the Mother and Child Foundation and the Carrison Society, but also pre and perinatal societies.
I'm Dominic O'Brien. I work with the Gifted Academy. I teach people how to access, unleash the power of their memory. I'm the author of various books on memory. I've also won the World Memory Championships 8 times.
Professor Michael Crawford asked me to give a demonstration, which I'm about to do, on working memory, because that's what it is. There are various types of memory, short-term, long-term, episodic, but I use working memory, which I think is the most important brain function. But before I do that, just to complement what Professor Crawford has been talking about, 2 years ago, Raymond Keane encouraged me to open a Twitter account. So I talk about matters memory. And I don't have as many followers as Raymond, but I'm gathering them. And I get alerted to information about the brain and memory every day. And one word that is cropping up more and more is the word dementia. I'm going to try and prove it wrong now. So, Richard, if you'd like to call out each number, we'll start off slowly, and then we'll speed up. Now, this is your dementia. So, after I've tapped, you pull out the first number. Tap again, pull out the second. Try this for yourself, see how many you can do. 3, 9, 4, 6, 9, 0, 1, 3, 5, 3, 2, 6, 7, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 7, 8, 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 9, 8, 7, 6. It's a nice easy number. 4, 5. Is that it? We've got some more. 4, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's it then. Right, would anybody like to have a go at this? I think I've got the numbers there. If you'd like to tick these off, just say yes if I get it right. So it starts with the 1, is that right? Then a 3, 9, 4, 6, 9, 0, 1, 3, 5, 3, 2, 6, 7, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are we okay so far? Absolutely right. If you like to put a circle around that 9, I'm going to go from the very end back to that 9. So the very last digit is a 9. Is that right? Yes. Yes? Yes? Just say yes. Yes, yeah. 8, so we're going backwards. Okay? 7, 4, 5, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was the easy number. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 8, 7, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9, and then we're back at the other 9.
So you're going to tell us about the cost.
The cost. Not only the cost, but the origin and the prevention. And I have already given this talk twice this morning on Hungerford Footbridge. And so I hope I get as good reception here as I did there. So it's the cost, the origin, and prevention. And this is rather gloomy because I'm going to do it through the pathways to prison and the pathways to dementia. But let's look on the bright side and see the enormous amount of money that can be saved if we go about it right, and the number of lives that we can rescue if we get it right.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You heard from earlier speakers of the worldwide crisis from deficiencies in nutrition and how they'll affect the brain. Most of you here today will be aware of the growing incidence of obesity and diabetes and other adverse conditions. I want to focus on a less well-known link between obesity, diabetes and the brain, a condition now being regarded as type 3 diabetes, and how this is going to affect memory. And to some extent I'm going to identify some of the mechanisms behind the effects that Dominic talked about. Where do I point this? Oh, there we are. This shows very briefly the relationship between diet, which of the present day, and what's sometimes called the Paleo Diet. Now, the Western diet, we've been eating this for about 200 years. The so-called Paleo Diet, probably for 200,000 years, during which time there's been time for evolutionary changes and epigenetic changes. And you can see the differences here, high levels of consumption of fruit, of sugars, fruit juices, and sugar products. Paleo diet, probably low. Fats about the same. Saturated grain-fed meat, high today, low there. Omega-3, probably high in present time. Oily fish, less, and the converse.
Dr. Wang will now say something about his work on the history of a change that's been taking place in our own countries and in China. Why don't you say anything about China? You want to talk about China?
Yes.
Say a bit about China. Talk about it.
Yes, because I just want to say something. The food system, the change. Just as Michael said, the Middle East, the same thing in China. Just as Michael, every time he visited China, said the Chinese made the mistake the Western country made already. So every city, the McDonald's, Kentucky, everywhere. So the Chinese chosen obesity, for example, the Beijing city. More than 40% adults, the overweight and obesity. And the children, more than 50% like this. So that's a repeat again the mistake. And so I give some of the idea, think that, yes, because the recent decay, several decades, chronic disease dramatically increased. For example, I just got the information from Chinese CDC. The cardiovascular disease this year around 290 million. Mental disease about the 173 million the people. what's kind of the, you can't imagine how many people affected by this. We try to find the reason, but the reason seems this is just from the FAO and the WHO, the food-based database.
I'd like to ask, how do you see the difference or the combination of DHA and neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine on the communication within the brain?
I think the answer to that is that the way that the acetylcholine works is at the interface of the two synapses, and the integrity of that system is dependent on the membrane. And the membrane, the integrity itself, is dominated by DHA. So if you have a strong membrane, you can get good control of the neurotransmission. If you have a weak membrane, you get a lot of noise and nonsense.
What is the practical process you're going to use to lift this out of the supermedia for all these constraints and focus on, just like heart and certainly cancer, getting this out there? Because this guy certainly didn't understand what you were saying about the brain if you had asked that question. So it's a matter of having some kind of organized program.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
One would think. And I think that's what she was asking. It was very practical but polite.
Yeah. In my book, you can write off everybody in this room, including myself. It's not us, it's the next generation that's important. You've got to focus on the next generation. The brain is built before birth. What's that?
So we must get out and see.
The brain is built before you're born, practically, and it doesn't like to be changed.
Brevity has been pressed upon me. What remarks can I make? Because all remarks have already been remarked upon by remarkable people. We therefore, I hope, have a room of people, if they were not already supporters of the various
Nothing to do with me.
presentations today, are willing converts. So I thank
I want to say something.
So I thank you. Oh, the waitresses are getting ugly. So I thank you for your attendance. Let us find a means of keeping in touch. We have your email addresses. We know where you live. So we will keep you informed of our activities, and we hope for your participation. What we started today isn't a presentation, it's a dialogue. Thank you all very much for talking.